In this video, I'm going to have a look at how to try and fix converging parallel lines, especially vertical ones, such as on the edges of the tower on this church. This happens quite a lot with wide-angle lenses. You have to get quite close and stand quite a bit below and then look up. And you get quite a distorted looking image, and if some people like it, it looks very dramatic, but you can fix this. So as usual, I'm in Adobe Camera Raw. Now you need to go down to the Basic tab option which says Geometry. It's about the third one from the bottom if you click on Geometry. Now you've got various options. Some of them are an automatic application. So I'll just show you. There's one, you go from left to right. After the word upright, you've got a capital A, and that says auto, so we'll click on that. And it will do its best, and it does a pretty good job at trying to fix some of the perspective errors that you get from this sort of view. Let's just disable that and go back to normal. The next one is levels. So this is looking really at horizontal lines, and we'll try and level them as best they can. I tend not to use that too much for something like this, but we'll try it. And it's shifted it slightly, but I'm just going to I'm not going to click off that. I'm just going to click onto the next one. And the next one is vertical. So this is probably the more important one. Okay, now what it's done here, it's found what appear to be vertical edges, analyzed them, and tried to make them all as upright as possible. And if you're wondering what these black and white checks are in the corners, it's showing you that it would have to cut off some of the image if you want it corrected like that. You do lose a little bit of image quality, perhaps not noticeable. I'm going to show you a different way of doing it because I find that a little bit too drastic. If you click on the next one, this will apply both vertical and horizontal corrections. So not surprising that it hasn't done a great deal compared to the previous two. And it's the last one. There we are. I'm just going to, this is sort of what looks like a no entry sign. I've just disabled all of those, so we're back to normal as before. Okay, now if you click on what is a little drop-down menu underneath these, which says Manual Transformations, you click on that, you get a bit more freedom to rotate the image. So this is probably the best one to do if you wanted to be a little bit more picky about the overall look. So if I just go through each slider very quickly, vertically, if I just show you what it does, it can tilt the image vertically. So I'm going to move it so that I'm really looking at the tower. I think that's quite a good result horizontally. So that will move it left to right. I think I was quite happy with the original. So I'm just going to double click on the slider to zero it out. You can rotate it, which means you can level it that way as well if you're happy. Let's see. Again, I'm looking at the tower and some of the verticals. So that's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. The aspect, well, again, I'll show you what that does. You can squeeze it. I don't see any reason why you would really want to change that. That's more distorting it now. The scale, so you can zoom in a little bit more. Again, I would leave that as 0. Offset X along the X-axis. So that means you can move it horizontally without affecting the whole image. Just its position, and the same up and down. So you might prefer something like that. I generally don't bother with those last 4. So after you've done what you think is a pretty good job at trying to correct some of the perspective distortion, I like to go back to crop. So I'm going to remove some of these areas which are going to have to be removed due to how it's actually manipulated the image. So up the right hand side, go to crop, and I'm going to decide how much to cut to hide some of these edges. It can do it for you, but I prefer to have more control over it. So once I'm happy with that, I'll then click on the edit panel, and there we are. And what I tend to look for are the most important parts of the image which should be straight, which are for me the tower, the edges at this side, so here part of this, and I generally look at the church entrance will probably need to be horizontal as well, since that's where people actually go in. Now I don't fix it completely, so we still get some convergence, but if I go back to the original image, you'll see that it's made a very drastic difference. So this is before, where it now appears to be leaning, and this is after. Before and after, and you get a pretty good correction of a view which would otherwise be rather extreme, especially after you do the corrections. Okay, so that is the geometry tab in Adobe Camera Raw.